Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Doing good.
How's your day so far?
Very tiring. I,
Yeah.
I normally work. We normally work 5 a.m. to 1:30,
Oh,
and
dang.
then had, I had a job interview today for like an internal position. So was working on that today, and then yeah.
That's sweet. Hopefully you get the job, right?
Oh yeah, hopefully it would be nice. Pay increase and a better team to be on. So
That's pretty good.
yeah.
So you wanted to talk about Blue Farm today, right?
Yes. I sent you some kind of questions, guidelines, things that I had questions about. And I've been playing the deck for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
about 3 years or so. But haven't been playing tournaments. Our locals is pretty good. We get a good amount of people each week. Usually once or twice a week, we'll get 16 to 20 people. And the shop I go to, we started a team, so I'm on this team, and I just want to kind of take things to another level if possible,
Sure, sure,
and
sure.
yeah, so just kind of narrow down things that I want to do for my list. I played a lot pre-band, and I feel like post-band, the deck has been like a solid 90 cards as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to like solid like 96 or
Oh
97.
yeah. With
So,
Dockside gone, not everything is so certain.
oh yeah, yeah. And I took a break for a couple months and played Kinnan, and that was fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I discovered that like that kind of play style isn't something that I really feel at home with.
That's fair.
I also play a lot of 60 card format, so I'm used to kind of like range mid range esque.
Yeah,
So like I
mid
played
range.
John did modern for a long time. I played Delver. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's kind of my home. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Um, so it looks like you sent me some questions, right? Some.
And
Hmm?
yeah, yeah. To prep for this too, I played your list this week. Got 4 games in with it,
Mm-hmm.
and generally
Sorry,
didn't
sorry, you're cutting out.
any differences in play, like card different cards that you and I are. Can you hear me?
Sorry, you're cutting out. Can you start again?
Can you hear me?
No. Let's see. Okay,
Let me leave. Let me leave.
okay. Let's see. Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
You were saying you took my list and you played like 4 games or so?
Yeah, yeah. Our weeklies is Monday, and so I played it a couple days just to kind of, because play what you're playing,
Mm-hmm.
see if any changes versus what I'm playing. Nothing really came up as far as I wish I had this card, or I wish I didn't draw this card.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, it felt pretty similar, um, which was nice. So,
Yeah. Yeah, usually
but yeah, just
blue farm
certain
style is like
differences I
that.
had. Yeah, yeah.
But let's see. You gave me some questions, so like red package or no red package, right?
Yeah, I feel like that was the biggest change post ban.
Sure, sure.
Um, is just leaning in more towards like the fast plan,
Mm-hmm.
and I see a lot of lists have some kind of form of it, whether it's just like channeler, facebreaker, flare. or like Jeska Berge, Flare,
Sure, sure, sure.
Facebreaker, so I just was
So
curious. I traditionally haven't been playing that.
no
And
worries. Um,
yeah.
without Dockside, I feel like this like little red package gives you more pivot point within the game. Like you can drop your Remora into like a J Will or a Bergie, and I think that gives you more explosiveness. Like you used to be able to drop Remora into Dockside, and that's how you would convert all of your like cards in hand. But obviously, Dockside doesn't exist anymore in the
Right.
format. It's quite unfortunate, but it's whatever. But like with Flare, you can duplicate your dark rituals or your demonic tutors, and with that, it like breaks parity on a lot of your spells.
Right. Yeah. What I've tested in the red package that I really like is Channeler.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the Surveil is basically card draw,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
things you don't want. And
Oh.
Flare has been really, um, being able to flare and add nods on top of one is really
Mm-hmm. It's extremely
nice.
like warping because not all blue farm players are playing this. If yeah, I would like say it's like 30% of blue farm players are actually playing Flare red package right now. So
Yeah.
people don't really expect it. So when one does come out, they get caught off guard so much. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, I do agree with your point on like the Dragon's Rage handler. Getting it off of Ranger just feels really good as well. And it being a flare body is amazing.
Yeah, there was turns in previous weeks when I was playing the deck where I would play a Ranger Captain, get Mockingbird, play that as another Ranger, and then get Channeler.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
having two silence effects that I don't have to pay 4 white mana for,
Mm-hmm.
and a Channeler. Nice.
Oh, it's so gas. Especially with
Yeah.
like the top deck tutors, it makes for interesting new breach piles and stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's nice.
Let's see. I guess you wanted to go over some mulliganing decisions. Do you want to do it with your deck or my deck?
Um.
And I
Um.
guess before we do that, we can talk a little bit about like our differences. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Let's do that because I might change some of my stuff based on reasoning. I wouldn't mind going over doing it with yours, um, but yeah, just a couple things. A lot of people don't play One Ring anymore,
mm-hmm.
and I see that your list has it. And I know there's a lot of argument in the Discord about how copy artifact is our copy of the One Ring. Worst case, it's also a Soul Ring or a Talisman,
Mm-hmm.
imposter mech or something. But what's the reason that you run the One Ring over something like copy artifact?
So it's a more consistent like it's just 4 mana, you get what you get. You get what you pay for, right? You get a one ring. Um Whenever I copy one ring, it's been okay, right? Like you're already behind in tempo in that regard whenever you copy something. Like a one ring, even if it's like 2 mana, right? You're still like a turn or so behind, drawing cards with it. It also, so I like the consistency in my deck more, right? It's more of a proactive game plan, and copy artifact doesn't really adhere to the fundamentals of being a proactive game plan.
Okay. So yeah, I know you play your list more proactively, and I'm heading more towards that way as well.
Mm-hmm.
Coming off of like say Waffles list where it's like copy enchantment, steal enchantment,
Oh
copy
yeah,
artifact.
yeah, yeah.
It's very
I used to play that style all the time. It's pretty good. I'd say it really depends on how you feel comfortable with your gameplay or your style, right? Coming
yeah.
from 60 card, you might be more comfortable with playing like a mid range control deck with all of like the copy effects. So you might be more interested in all the clone effects for all of the advantage pieces like copy enchantment, mirror maid, copy artifact, or even Phyrexia metamorph.
Yeah, I've come around on it though because there's been too many games where I have a steel enchantment and I go to steal it and then someone counters it, which is fine. That like obviously that's the game. But
Hmm.
then I'm sitting there thinking, well, if maybe if this was a copy enchantment, maybe it's less likely to get countered because I feel like more opponents would be fine if I wasn't like taking their
Oh,
smothering tide. I was just
100%.
making
I
my own.
agree.
So
Or
then
I
I'll
so I subscribe to this fundamental that um just cloning resources is better than stealing resources. So people
yeah.
will obviously fight over a steel enchantment because sometimes it's life or death for them, right? Because if they have only a Ristic Study in
Mhm.
play and you're trying to take it away from them, they'll defend it. Um, but if you have a copy enchantment, right? You can clone a Ristic Study. They're not gonna counter it.
Exactly, right. And so I started doing that. And then what ended up happening is whenever I drew copy enchantment, I didn't have any good targets to copy. So it
Oh,
just felt like I was a dead card.
I see.
I got time walked.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking, well, had this been something else like a J Will, for instance, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it would have been either a ritual or C3 cards. I'm like, well, maybe at this point in the game, I would value that more. I don't know.
I think
So that's what kind of open to playing the red package to kind of test things out, and I do like it overall.
for sure, and I
But yeah,
think
I agree with your.
say again.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say I agree with your thought of me because I come from 60 card that I am more comfortable with mid range control because that is what I do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like the last modern deck I played was Murktide, which was a tempo
Oh,
deck.
oh,
So
is it Murktide or just Murktide?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I haven't played modern in a while.
Oh, that's fair. That's
So
fair. I do agree with your like sometimes these cards can be dead like the copy effects like even copy artifact, right? That's why I was talking about it earlier where it's like sometimes it's dead. um the blue farm deck I'm playing right now is proactive and it pushes its game plan extremely consistently like forward, right? You aren't really relying on your opponents to do stuff. You kind of just take advantage of all your good cards in the deck and you're pushing yourself forward.
right, yeah.
I see
So I
some.
guess I can see that
Hmm?
wondering, which is nice.
Yeah,
I can see that being the argument for wondering, and I can agree with that.
for sure, for sure. Sometimes if your meta is a little faster, you can cut the one ring for like a piece of interaction or another value piece if you want that instead.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. I guess you sent me some a list of card choices, right? So Ottawara versus Mistrise Village. Um, this.
Yeah, that's been.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that your deck played that over Mistrise, and I was playing Mistrise. And I was curious because Ottawara bounce doesn't really come up often for me.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I've won with Mistrise where I was able to main phase a console, like just main phase a console using Mistrise, and then play Cabinet of Souls for turn, like land for turn, and then play Oracle and win, which
That's
was.
hot.
Uh, but but yeah, I was curious, like, because if the argument is to be proactive,
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't a Rise Village making your breach uncounterable be more to that game plan than sitting on an Otawara and bouncing someone else's breach? Or I guess in best case scenario, you bounce a Dranith so that you untap and can play breach.
Sure, sure, sure. So my thought behind it is actually that I should be playing Mistrise, but it's actually going in for like the Spire of Industry or a Hollowed Fountain slot. Um, the current reason why I'm
Okay.
not on Miss Rise right now is just because early game I don't like that it's basically a tap land on turn one and you don't really activate it until like turn four or later, realistically speaking.
Right. So seeing it in open hand is not ideal.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a game where that. my one play, Mistrise path, which didn't feel great, but I think that was the same game I had mentioned. Had the consult and the cavern. All
Gotcha.
four of those cards were in my hand in hand. I was like,
That's so
whoa.
funny. That's so funny.
Talk about testing.
But yeah, usually I like to play Remora on turn one, so it's like I can't cast a Remora on turn one with Miss Rise. So
Right.
that's the biggest thing. I think I've grown to like the card more. It's just that it forces you to grab a mountain too, and like the best mountains are like Badlands and Plateau, and I'm not
Yeah.
sure if I want to subscribe to that yet.
Oh yeah, just having like the fast neck grow off the Badlands, and then also being a mountain for the Mistrise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're also mentioning about Reign of Filth. Have you played with this card before?
No, I haven't, but I've saw like Tremix List was playing it, and then a handful of other people. So I played it, and interestingly enough, that game too I played on Monday. I was last seat, but I kept a hand that was Rite of Flame, Facebreaker, and then had Rain of Filth in there, and I can't remember what the rest of the hand was,
Mm-hmm.
but I was very much like, okay, cool. Turn two Facebreaker, turn three Timna, you know, make some treasures. But my opponent's seat one was Ob, and he played a Rite of Flame and played something. So I'm like, oh, cool, this is turn one
Oh,
Facebreaker.
that's so
So I
funny.
turned one Facebreaker, and I had two lands, and that was it. So on my turn two, I just kind of Hail Married and tapped one land for Rain of Filth,
Mm-hmm.
tapped my other land white, sacked all of my lands to play Timna, swung, made a treasure, and then was able to keep that going for two more turns because two of my opponents mulled to five,
Okay.
and the other person was like just not drawing land. So I was like, okay, cool, like this is my time to break parity. So then the following turn was make two treasures, draw two cards. I played Crom, and then the following turn was make three treasures, draw three cards. And I was like, okay, like Reign of Filth was really pivotal in this game. But from what I understand, like that's not the goal of Reign of Filth, not to like waste
Mm-hmm.
land yourself out of the game. But like obviously you Nas, and then you have fuel for breach, you have mana to play rocks. So
Exactly. Exactly.
I've yet to play it in that situation, but the one time I did see it, it was nice.
Yeah, that's a new way I've heard of using Reina Filth is casting Timna on turn two.
Yeah, I figured it's in my hand. I gotta play it. I gotta see,
Yeah, yeah.
if this kind of or not. And that I ended up losing that game though. Funny enough, but I was able to get way ahead of everybody. And then I think the following turn was Voice of Victory, Windfall Bowmaster,
Mm,
and the guy across from me was talking about countering the voice, and I told him I'm not winning here. Like
gotcha.
I don't know if you want to counter this. I'm not trying to win. I'm just trying to play the voice. And they let it resolve, and then the rest of everyone was like, "Why did you do that? You're just supposed to counter it." And but I wheeled Ob into a bunch of stuff, and then I wheeled the guy that went after him just one because he was playing like a reanimator deck. So
Okay, gotcha, gotcha.
it is what it is. But yeah,
Sometimes if I'm just ahead in tempo, I just won't wheel, and then it forces your opponents to play the game.
yeah, yeah,
So maybe that's something to look at. I do agree with all your points of Reign of Filth. The reason why I'm playing it is because it's like almost a replacement Dockside where you just spend mana and get a crap ton of mana out of it. It's like I think it's the best ritual post turn 4, turn 5 because you spend one black and then you get 4 black, 5 black, and then you also feel your breach. I treat this as if it's a Final Fortune effect because you're obviously strip mining all your lands when you're doing
right.
this. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Okay, so the main point of Rain of Filth is to treat it kind of like Final Fortune, where you have your turn,
Mm-hmm.
you kind of go all in on it, make as much mana as you need to, try to keep going.
Yep.
So
Yep.
less value, which is what I assume, but
Yeah, it's basically like the last ammo shot in your revolver you need to get over the finish line. Um,
I like the idea of looking at a Final Fortune effect. So if I'm just mulligans, if I say, well, if this was a Final Fortune, would I keep it in his hand? Yes or no?
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
that's good.
And like at worst, right? You just pitch it to Chromox and Gemstone Cavern, and then you're like, oh wow, okay, problem solved, right?
Right, right.
You're talking about Bergie
And I
Horn
guess
too.
I guess yeah, I guess the same thing that applies to Rainifield also applies to Horn.
Mm-hmm.
From what I understood, I thought Bergie was the part that most people wanted to cast because it gives you free mana.
Mm-hmm.
But then I realized that the Horn is probably what people are mostly interested in because post Nas or just like you just play it for turn after drawing a bunch off Crom and Timna.
Mm-hmm.
You can start exiling and just playing that way. So I think Horn is what most people like to play. Correct?
So I would rate it as if it was a 30% to 70%. Now that may seem like a huge crazy statistic, whatever. Obviously it'll change based on the pilot, but usually when Bergie is good is in the early game when you cast them turn 2, turn 3, right? You just take your turn off and you cast a Bergie, and it'll help you curve into the rest of your spells later on, or just for a storm turn later. um, Horn
Okay.
is Horn is like basically another quote unquote Final Fortune effect, right? You never want to cast a Horn and pass a turn because it's so easy to copy it with like copy artifact and Phyrexian Metamorph, and those people will cheat the Bergie cost and then have extra mana laying around to storm off with it in play. Um,
Right. Right. Right.
the main thing about it is I like to literally just pay for like a fish, right? Or just have a Ristic in play, and then you cast the backside of the Horn, and you just start manually fighting over your win. And if they start fighting with you, you draw cards off the Ristic Study or the Mystic Remora. And if they're just like they're not valuable cards, like you're drawing Lance, you just pitch it to the Horn to exile into more gas, and from that your likelihood of winning is extremely high because for every time they're interacting, you're getting 2 cards basically.
Right. Yeah. I like that line of thought.
And the other thing is it's so perfect to go J Will into backside of Horn, because usually J Will makes like 7+ mana, or even like I've had games where it makes like 15. Because I live in a Ristic
Yeah.
Study world where like there's like 10 Ristic Studies in play at all times. So I just resolve a Jeska's Will and resolve all backside of Horn, and then at that point it's extremely hard for people to fight through your draw engine, because it's basically 2 draw engines with Horn in play, and then you'll find all your gas, all your tutors, all your rituals, and then all your interaction spells on top of it too.
Yeah. Okay. My local meta is a lot of turbo. I feel like it's like 60-40, like 60% are playing mid range and 40% are on turbo.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of times where I'm putting pods with 2 turbo players, and it's myself and
You
Rock.
say that again. Sorry, you cut out.
Cool seats. So um, every time I see Just Will in those types of pods, I'm always thinking, should I run this? Like the ritual seems good right now, but it doesn't really help. And
Mm-hmm.
how often do you cast J Will and get both sides of it
Oh,
versus like
a lot,
how often
right?
the
Usually
ritual?
early game you wanna ramp into like your your value engines, like your Mystic Remora, your Ristic Study, even Tithe. You'll cast like Timna later, and then the following turn you're ready to pop off. You'll cast your J Will, your Horn, and like your Rain of Filth, and all of that combined is like almost unstoppable. Like your opponents have to have like 21 pieces of interaction to stop all that gas.
Right, right.
So usually it's like a mid game approach almost. Sometimes you can just cheat it out early if you're like you just have the resources, which usually you do with this deck because it's blue farm, right? You played so many good cards in this deck.
Right.
Let's see. You're talking about City of Traders too, right? What are your thoughts on this card?
Yeah, I've been a real big fan of it. Pre-testing the red package and testing the red package, I feel like with running Smothering Tithe, and like if you're playing gifts, copy enchantment, stuff like that. I feel like any of the two colorless X spells, it just helps. Obviously Ristic, it helps cast, and there's been games where I've kept a hand that was just land City of Traders Ristic
Mm-hmm.
and was able to like progress the that way. Looking at your list, you play even more of the two colorless X spells like Fergie and Facebreaker
Jeska's
and
Will
One
and
Ring.
stuff.
So I was curious. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was curious why, like, if City of Traders was on your radar for that list.
So it's been on my radar and I've tested it a lot. I'm not a I come from like the control style of Blue Farm. I've just started picking this up like maybe like 8 months ago, like post ban. I started playing the red shell list and I really liked it. Um,
Uh-huh.
so my like my previous bias is against the card because it like it strip mines itself, right. Um,
Yeah.
I hate that so much. Is the huge problem. I'd rather take like 4 damage before it goes away or whatever, right? Um,
Right, right.
the problem is that it's usually bad in your starting hand because it'll go away. Um,
Hmm.
and you don't want a land that you end up losing in the first 2 turns. That would because that sets you back a lot. Uh, it can provide a boost of colorless mana on a combo turn, which is pretty good. I think I like that the most, but I don't think it's worth a slot, especially since we're already thinking about playing Mistrise and Otawara, and we just have so many other lands, right? Like,
Yeah, that's true. We have restricted lands already.
mm-hmm. And then if you're past the point where like, oh, you're looking for an early win attempt, right? Like you don't want a land that'll go away if you're playing for the long game.
Yeah. I mean, the only plus side I can see of it going away is it's one more card for breach, but like,
Mm-hmm.
how often are you breaching and you go, oh man, I have one more card. I could have won.
The high roll on this is if like you play a land and then with the trigger on the stack you cast a Rain of Filth and sack it for black.
Oh, that's actually cool.
So
Yeah.
so if you want to do that, that's fine. I mean like I don't hate City of Traders. I see all of its upsides, but I've been burned too many times from the card, and maybe that's just a skill issue, but I'm not huge on the card.
Okay. But no, it's good to hear the other side of it and
Mm-hmm.
like see the counterpoints to it, which like obviously, losing a land isn't good.
For sure.
But I played the last bronze event I played. I was able to turn two Smothering Tithe off of the city, with land and mocks, and then city Smothering Tithe, which was nice.
I think that's
I
that's when it's best is if you
Oh
have
yeah,
like a
yeah,
little payoff for it, like Ristic or Tithe, right? Especially Tithe, because then it just replaces the mana.
exactly right. And I think that because my experience with it has been over like more good than bad, I'm biased in that. that situation. Much like you're biased against it.
um, Moxhammer. I just so I used to play it over like March because I didn't believe in the card, but um,
Hmm.
I just I just found that when you make mana with this deck, it's usually like rituals, right? And at that point, you just have like 10 black or whatever floating. So I never need the Mox Amber as a consistent mana source. Like I'm already off the two talismans.
Yeah, because my concern was is that like we're an ad nauseam necro deck, so
Mm-hmm.
having more zero drops would be nicer, like post, you know,
For sure.
postborn, whatever. And I was curious because it felt like this card was played in almost every list after Mana Crypt got banned. And then you play it, and obviously sometimes you don't have your commander, but like playing things like Bergie increase that count, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I was just curious as to why like what was your thought process in not playing it, which
So I think we just run a higher density of rituals than the normal like control blue white style of blue farm, right? I'm playing Jeska's Will, I'm playing Culling the Weak, I'm playing Reign of Filth, right? Those aren't normally seen in the regular blue farm. And sometimes people aren't even playing Facebreaker in the normal blue farm either. So they're
right, yeah,
they need more consistent mana. We're more explosive mana, right? Like Facebreaker, Bergie, all that stuff. And that just it's like you get mana from different sources, and you just choose what mana you want from different sources. Um, in my
okay,
experience with Blue Farm, right before Dockside got banned, I think Amber was worse, and post Dockside ban, it's a little better. But I don't think we run a high enough legend count, personally speaking, to have it enabled. Because
yeah,
like
I
if
I
you
agree.
cast like a Timnah on turn two, like and then you just hold up a Mox Hammer, right? It like the only use case for that is really Vamp Tutor or like it's really only like Vamp Tutor and Silence is what you're holding up, and I didn't feel like that was really that good.
Yeah, I like the argument of having more explosive mana versus like um stock mana. Yeah, stock mana for lack of a better term, like comparing it to
Permanent
like
mana, yeah.
more grindy decks. So I and yeah, the fact that Facebreaker makes mana and this version has more of a ritual package makes a lot more sense.
Um, and then Forbidden Orchard. I know Tre- Tremnek absolutely hates this card, and
Oh yeah.
I tell him like almost every other week that he needs to play it over Tarnished Citadel, but I guess
Oh yeah.
that's where,
I wouldn't
huh?
at all. I wouldn't play Tarnished at all. I used to play Najila and it was fine in Najila because it's so heavy, but um yeah. I get a lot of eye rolls and my friends being like why the hell are you playing that card? Like that's terrible for
Yeah,
that. And I'm like, I don't think I'm attacking as much in this, in the faster version of it. So I don't care if you guys hear it. I'm trying to win before you guys do. So
and then the other thing is like if you are in the mid range slog, you literally just gave your spirits to one person, and uh they don't have flying text, and Crom has flying text on it. So I don't see the problem in them like quote unquote blocking all your attacks or whatever. I think that's like an invalid
yeah,
argument.
I've used it as a politic piece too, where we had the Rog Thras player, and I would tell people, hey, I don't want to give this to the Cradle player. I'm gonna give these spirits to you, but I'm gonna ask that if I attack you, you can't block any of my creatures with these spirits.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
most of the time, they'll take it because they don't want the Cradle player just like turning their spirits into like, oh, I'm gonna play Enduring Vitality. Now the spirit you gave me is like, 2 mana. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
A
think
lot of the time.
that's a perfect politicking uh position where you can use this to even like block opposing Timnas too. You're like, hey, Kenrith player, if I give you this, can you block the Timna that's coming at you? And most of the time they'll say yes.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've done that before too. Or like I just won't even say anything, and they'll swing at everyone but me because I have Crom that didn't attack,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll go, okay, yeah, I'm gonna add a blue. I'll give seat to the spirit, and then they'll go, oh, sick. I'll block. You know,
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
block the.
Oh, it's so funny because we have a local Yuriko player, and I play Orchard in all of my decks, so it's like I kind of just cut them off from their Yuriko attack using just a fucking land.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I see the value of having it in a faster deck
Mm-hmm.
because I don't care about it. In like the older versions of like the mid range grindy deck, I would have never played it because most of the time you want to attack and draw.
I still play it in like the old mid range like lists because you're usually just like cloning Ristic anyways, and then you're just chilling there with Ristic Study in play, and you don't have to attack using those.
Right, right.
Let's see. You also had another question where it's like turbo versus control mid range. I guess we touched up on it a little bit.
Yeah.
I want to expand the point. So the reason why I'm playing a more proactive style is just because you can. There are so many windows, given the meta now, that this deck can take advantage of, especially early game, because not a lot of decks just cast Necro on turn one or turn two anymore, and we are one of the decks that still do that.
Right.
And then we also play the mid game super well, right? We still have Timna and Crom. We still play Ristic Study. We play Mystic Remora. We play Esper Sentinel. All of those cards are great in the mid range slog. And we're also a black deck, so we can play Orcish Bowmaster to punish all the green decks as well.
Right. Yeah.
And
No,
then
it'll kind of fold to it.
in the late game, we just have like Reign of Filth, right? I was talking earlier about how sometimes late game you convert one mana to six even, and you get six cards for breach too, which I
Yeah.
feel is amazing.
Okay.
The main problem with like the average control list, right? I've made one for uh one of the people on the Critical EDH YouTube channel, but we can also look up Freedom Waffles list. You can see my stream, right? Just double checking.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
I can see it.
Okay.
I
Okay.
feel like I can see the big window of it, but if I click to pull it up and make it bigger, I think that's what was causing the audio lag.
Gotcha.
Uh, I can try doing it right now to see if that also happens, and
Okay.
then you just have to leave and come back. But I'll try right now. Give
Sure.
me
Sure.
one
Sure.
second.
And like I can
Can you
still
hear
hear
me?
you right now. Yep. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I think we're good then because I can see everything you're doing.
So what's funny is I was talking to Evan yesterday, and he actually added Facebreaker to his deck, but and Culling the Week. But before he was playing like
Okay.
Commandeer and stuff. But the main problem I find with the original shell is that it lacks like the density of rituals in replacement for interaction, right? They're playing double blast, they're playing
Yeah.
double removal spell, and these cards don't necessarily help you win the game. They stop you from losing the game. And with this more proactive game style, you want to be pushing your ability to win the game rather than trying to like prolong the game. Obviously, you still can, right? Blue Farm is still like a Grixis control deck if you want it to be, but it's way better if you have a proactive game plan.
Yeah, I've come around on that too because like when Blue Farm was becoming like the deck years ago,
Mm-hmm.
people had played TNT and post Flash ban. It just felt like that deck was always struggling to win. Like you played mid range, you know, you can win the grind game all day, but like you were just spinning Thrasios and you were at the mercy of, well, am I going to draw what I need to win? Yes, no. Oh, somebody else won. Okay, cool. And I felt like that after Dockside being banned and Crypt being banned, you lost that fast potential, and that Blue Farm was slowly starting to fall into that category of, well, I'm going to draw a lot of cards, but I still don't have a way to close out. Really, I need to get my win. Whereas if you build it more proactively, you're not playing swords, you're not playing pyroblast, you're not playing deluge, and you kind of get into this mentality of, well, you know, I'm not going to use my resources to benefit the table.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to swords the Kinnan player, you know, and then just pass the turn, and now the other person can just win on top of that because I answered Kinnan, you know, and took them off of mana for interaction. I've had games where we had a Sisay player with a ton of treasures and a Smothering Tithe, and if he got a turn, uh, he was going to get two more treasures, have enough activation, and you know push ahead. And I had a wish claw, and my uh, guy across from me was playing Malcolm Kedis,
Mm-hmm.
and he had mana for a Psych Rift. So I played a Wish Claw, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to give you this Wish Claw, but I need you to get a Psych Rift." And he goes, "Well, why don't you get a Psych Rift?" And I said, "I don't have 7 mana. Two, I'm not playing Psych Rift. I know you're playing Psych Rift. I'm going to give this to you, but I need you to get a Psych Rift because I can't get it myself." And he goes, "Well, just get a Deluge." And I go, that doesn't answer the treasures. Two, I'm also not playing Deluge." So he thought I was crazy, but I ended up getting Oracle with the Wish Claw because I had Consult in hand, and then I gave him the he got the Psych with it. Took the say off of interaction, and then I end up winning on my next turn.
Nice.
So like I like the fact that I can polish and be like, I actually don't have a way to get rid of this creature.
Mm-hmm.
Most times somebody else will use their interaction, which
For
is
real.
nice because I basically turned, you know, I basically got to cast it for free, which is nice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I guess the main thing about it is that, uh, like I like your analogy, right, to the post Flash ban TNT. TNT was
Yeah.
actually one of the first decks I started playing the format on, and it was like the most grindy deck known to man. Right, you could like play the game for like 10,000 years with Seaborn Muse, but it could not convert
Oh yeah.
for its life. Like you would literally be sitting in with 30 cards in your hand, and you would still be like, all right, I'm moving to discard on your turn.
Yeah, and you would be able to stop anyone winning, but eventually you just ran out of interaction because you stopped two players at the table,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not drawing wins. Well, the person you haven't interacted with,
For sure.
and playing that deck in the meta was great. Like you were just able to just one card win, and it was great.
Mm-hmm.
But not having that, you know, obviously Brewmaster helps, but I still think the deck is slow. If they were to ban Underworld Breach or Crom, I would probably switch to TNT, but probably hate it and then play Rock Their Ass or something. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it comes back to, have you heard of the ROG psi efficiency?
um, I think I have.
Okay.
Um,
So it's
it
just
sounds.
so
It's
it's just this idea.
else.
Let me pull up ROG psi. Oh, that's not ROG psi. That's different. Uh, but basically, the the deck plays mana, rituals, or I guess rituals and mana are the same thing. Tutors and interaction. That is all the deck does, and I think that's what Blue Farm has adapted itself to right now with the inclusion of a little bit of silence effects. Um, the main
Right.
the main idea is that Rogsai is one of the most potent decks in the format still. Not a lot of people are playing it. I think it's just due to the lack of high level Rockside pilots piloting the deck right now, but the deck the deck can convert like so few cards into just a win attempt over and over. They can convert all their mana into ad nauseum, peer into the abyss, whatever win con they're doing, necros too, right? It's extremely
Yeah,
efficient in that regard, and I think that's what this faster blue farm deck is trying to do right now. Is that it it is extremely efficient in its cards in converting into a win, versus like even the old control style of blue farm. You can't convert like swords and path into a win until way later on into the game. And this is also the same with like Timna Thrasios too, right? They'll draw 30 cards, but they cannot convert it for their life. If you give Rog Sai 30 cards, you're dead immediately the second they cast anything.
yeah. I have all the stuff for Wrong Site and played it in past, and it's great. I like it. There's a friend of mine who has played stuff like Talion in the past.
Mm-hmm.
He's played other decks, and he was playing Talion for a while. And he recently, like in the last couple months, picked up Rogsai, and his win rate has gone way up with the deck. Like he's like really invested in it and like has been learning the deck and cool. And it's cool to see him be rewarded for it, which is nice. And I like that deck, and I like the idea of building blue farm in the same sense of don't play cards that don't convert.
Mm-hmm. And
Like you said, Pyroblast.
the other thing, right, that I want to think about is why are we playing competitive commander, right? We're here to play the game to win, and you just naturally win more if you are just trying to win more, if that makes sense. We're playing a more proactive
Yeah,
game
yeah.
style that adheres to just
Um,
here I am winning right now. Here's my silence into convert into necro or whatever.
right. That being said, it has March in it, and I used to play that in the more control shell,
Mm-hmm.
pre-ban. Is there a specific reason that you?
Say that again.
Oh, sorry. March is a
Sure, sure, sure.
specific reason you play that. Because that card kind of does fall into the not proactive kind of
Mm-hmm.
side
So
of things. So I'm interested to see if that exception.
so this card, I love that it says an instant on it. It's a blue card you pitch to force. Obviously, that's like more of a joke,
Right.
but it does pitch to force whenever you need it. Um, it is an instant, so it does open your windows up, especially at important times when you do have Valley Flood Color or Born Upon a Wind. You can't Toxic Deluge at instant speed. You can't Dam at instant speed. You can't Supreme Verdict at instant speed. Um, and this deck plays 33 blue cards in it, which is a higher density than the other colors in this deck. So you're more likely to find a blue spell to pitch to this. So it's usually one blue to just phase out whatever you need at the current time. Which this deck is pretty weak to like early stacks pieces for the most part. But if you are able to just open up your window for even one end step, you can explode with all of your mana, all of your rituals, right? And then you can convert.
Gotcha. So you're just using it as just basically not like a deluge where you want to hit a bunch of stuff. You want to use it as I'm going to get rid of the Dranith. I'm going to get rid of the Oppo. I'm going to get rid of whatever else.
And in the fail state that you can't convert this win attempt for some reason, um, they phase back in, so your opponents are stuck under those stacks pieces. Obviously, this is turn order dependent and whatever, but It
Mhm.
opens a window that isn't equivalent when you pass the turn and you fail your window to your other opponents.
That's true. As opposed to like swordsing it, and then everybody benefits from it.
For sure. If you swords a Draneth, it doesn't come back. Do you have any other card choices that you're thinking?
Card choices, no. I over the last couple months or whatever, I've tested Rev, and Rev seemed pretty
Mm-hmm.
good. Um, and then obviously I played Oppo in my list, but with the philosophy, with the Rockside philosophy, cutting that has been great.
Mm-hmm.
Um, being less reactive, proactive, I definitely like that idea. Um, playing the more control mid range list of old, I would tend to keep a lot of hands that were like a fast Crom, or like a like a turn two Timna, turn three Crom.
Mm-hmm.
I would keep those obviously like turn one Remora, turn one Esper, turn two Ristic, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and my has been what to do if I keep a seven. If I start going down to five, I do want just the more of like the early value value plan if I can.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but have you
So
found that it changes with the fast build, or is the same kind of mulliganing
so
still present with this faster build?
so the main idea. I guess we can do a couple mulligans, but the main idea
Yeah.
for me is that I'm strictly mulliganing for Esper, Fish, or Ristic Study. Now, that doesn't work with Jeska's will necessarily, right? Because you're not playing your early commanders. But these cards just draw you naturally more into rituals and development, and by the time you are ready to win, your win is unstoppable because you have so many ways to produce mana
So
and
you're valuing the card into rituals um, more in this faster version.
say that again.
You're valuing hands that convert card draw into rituals,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm,
So like you wouldn't necessarily keep a quick command like a turn two Timna, turn three Crom, because you want to be able to draw. I guess even though that does the same thing to a means, right? Short of any removal for them.
mm-hmm.
Um,
I understand
but
that
the goal that
Timna
you're
and Crom are consistently like, oh, I'm gonna draw three cards. I'm gonna draw one card off Crom a turn cycle, but just like I will sit with a Mystic Remora in play for 8 turns. That is what I am known for locally, and I'll do it at any
Mhm.
tournament. But it's a extremely effective style because people don't really necessarily, you really can't play around not feeding the fish for 8 turns, and during that time
Right.
window, if your opponents are choosing not to jam into it, you are buying yourself more time with just land go, right? Or land rock go. And through that development, once you untap and your Remora dies, or even if you pay for it, you're able to ritual pay for it. You're able to um, have it the trigger on the stack and cast a Born. Your fish still has 8 counters, but you're not paying for it, and then you have all your resources in play. I like to stockpile all my resources. That's why sometimes a frontside Burgie is amazing. Having a Facebreaker in play and a Lothal generating me mana every turn, just so then when it is time to win, my win is literally unstoppable. And this also subscribes to the idea of Cavern of Souls plus human silence, right? These are extremely hard
Oh
to
yeah.
stop, and with our thought of Mistrise Village too, that adds just another layer of density of stuff that is hard to interact with once it comes to that point.
Right. Okay. So do you find yourself mulling to like 4 just to have a risk
Oh, I'll mold a
a
three.
remora?
I'll mold it two. It
Okay.
yeah. I don't like if I had to guess the percentage chance of me keeping a seven versus like below a five. It is higher likelihood that I go lower than five than I keep a seven.
Okay, so you're like aggressive.
I am aggressively mulliganing to put myself into the game, if that makes sense. I am not playing the game without an advantage piece in play, just because they're just so great in a four-player game, and you're able to politic to get extra cards sometimes, especially when you mull low. It's like it is actually just incorrect for your opponent to misstep a fish when you have two other cards in your hand.
Yeah, see, and people in my locals will do that, and like I've had games where I do keep a hand that's just Esper turn 1, and it's like I got absolutely nothing in my hand, and I'll tell them, I'll be like, hey, like my hand is garbage. Like at best, you probably want me to draw a little bit so I can help interact with the table if somebody tries to win.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, you've obviously gameplay now, and I'm like, okay, well, like good luck. I hope you got something for the wrong side player sitting across us.
At that point, the main thing you can do is literally when you're casting the Remora, you ask your opponent, "Are you gonna counter this?" And if they're hesitating, you literally just show them your hand. Right at that point, you probably have like a land
Oh,
and a rock, and you're like, "Okay, bro, you can put me out of the game, but you have to keep in mind you have to keep up interaction for." Rog side because their deck converts extremely quickly and efficiently.
right, right, yeah.
And the best thing to do is just be polite in that scenario, right? You're not gonna win someone over
Oh
by being.
no, of course, yeah,
Let's see. What do you want to do some mulligans real quick?
yeah.
Sure. My deck or your deck, whichever one is you prefer.
Let's do yours. I'm gonna keep playing your list. I might change something for City of Traders and what other ones?
Miss Rise.
Yeah, I think no, I like your reasoning for Mysterize. I think that the situation I had was just kind of like Magic Christmas Land. Um, so I
If you do want to
do
play
I do.
hello.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
I think if you do want to play Miss Rise and City of Traders, your best bet is to take out Hollowed Fountain and Spire of Industry. It's probably the technically the worst rainbow land in our deck besides Cavern of Souls, but that's not an actual rainbow land.
Right. Right.
You just have to be very careful in your mulligans if you're to do that, because Miss Rise comes in tapped early and uh, City of Traders produces colorless, which we've cut two talismans already in this list, so just be a
Mhm.
little careful in that regard.
That's that's also true. Yeah.
Okay, let's get into some mulligans real quick. What are your thoughts on this hand so far?
I gotta rotate my phone so
No
I can
worries, I'll read
see.
it out loud to you.
Um.
Esper
Oh no,
Seeds.
I can see it now. It's just the bottom bar with like the mic, the
Oh, the
text
Discord
bubble and all
link.
that.
Yeah.
It's
Here, I'll move it all up.
oh, actually, yeah, you can move it up, but I can see better. Um. So I will tell you previously to us talking about like mulling for advantage. This is this is a hand that I would keep only because it is it's a quick crom,
Mm-hmm.
and I was valuing those hands after talking about things, and it also has like the turn one Esper.
Sure.
I still, it's rough. Fast. I say no. I don't keep this.
You don't keep this. I don't either. If this was like a tundra or something, I definitely keep this just because it produces more than
Because of
colorless mana. Um, in
yep,
this regard, this is hurting our mulligans, but I choose to keep it in the list
right.
just because of the high roll on those human silences.
Oh yeah, yeah,
But I think
yeah.
this hand is a great representation of card draw, mana, and
Yep.
protection if you draw into it, and you're likely to draw into a land for just another for like a Tim the next turn. If not, just like casting a Burgie is fine too, or whatever. Um,
Right, right.
let's look at another
And you
hand.
have the pedal too, so you can cast Bergie and then play pedal on a later turn, get
Mm-hmm.
free red mana.
Yes. And even then, you can sandbag the Burgie and just play Horn whenever you're ready to try to win too.
Yeah, yeah. This one's an obvious no.
Yep, there's just no lance in this one. We call this on the critical EDH
I mean, if you top that,
YouTube. Huh?
that's yeah. Like if you top deck a swamp, that's a dark ritual
Oh.
Demacial, like super clean setup. It's very telegraphed that you're doing some busted stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
Let's see. What's this hand?
you do have two forms,
What did you say?
but then again, you're just still one mana.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I said bottleneck on this, so
Yeah.
terrible. What's the card that's what's the Slimer card?
Oh, it's a windfall.
Windfall. Okay. I, this one. Let's see. You're gonna have to forgive me. I'm usually playing. Oh, on Zoom. Okay, cool. Watergrave, Signet, Felwar. Um, so this is just. I would probably keep this because it's a quick windfall.
So my problem with
Which
this is that if you're keeping this, you're going into 3 mana, right? And then you're wheeling on turn 2. I do this if like I was in first or second seat, but not in third and fourth.
okay, yeah, I was of the mindset that you would want to do this in first seat or in fourth seat because you just have to be aggressive being last.
Gotcha.
Is that line of
So
correct with this version of the?
sometimes you will just straight up mull to 5 or whatever, right? And this is
Mhm.
probably better than most things you'll find at 4. Like unless you find land fish, but even then, this puts you back into the game a little faster if you're in fourth seat. You don't do this unless you're extremely desperate because if you're in fourth seat and you're wheeling, you all 3 of your opponents will have developed already, which means you're basically giving them a fresh new 7 or whatever you're doing with the windfall.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's more of a desperation play because you don't really want to
Okay.
put yourself behind this much where your opponents have gone like land orc or land rock or whatever, right? Because then you're just giving them a fresh 7 basically,
They,
and then they can play with it.
yeah, they break parity at the same rate that you do, or possibly better.
Yeah. Most
And
of the
I
time
see what
it's
you're saying where
better because you're in fourth seat.
yeah, and I see your point being this is 7. You may as well try to mulligan for something similar or better.
Mm-hmm.
But if this was a 5 or a 4, you would just keep us going lower is worse.
If this was a fish or a Ristic, I would keep this all day long.
Oh yeah, of course.
Let's see. Let's
Or
see.
even if like the voice of the horse were Remora.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to a second 7. What are your thoughts here?
It's too slow. The best thing that is turn one city for Imseal Remora, which
Mm-hmm.
is okay. You can also like turn one Imseal for a dark ritual, cast Smothering Tithe turn two. I guess this one's going to depend on your pod and seat order.
For sure. For
If
sure.
you're going first, I probably keep it.
I would keep this in
Um,
first seat just because you get turn 2 Tithe into turn 3 wheel, or even turn 3 Ranger plus wheel, and just the payoff of this is
yeah,
extremely high.
looking at this hand, I didn't even realize there was a wheel in there. I would 1000% keep that.
If you're in like last seat, it's a
Yeah.
little suspicious, but I think the payoff of Tithe plus wheel is crazy.
Oh yeah, yeah. Turn one, Smothering Tithe, and then just hope you draw land sometime in 3 turns, or just make the get land off the treasure and then cast wheel.
Mm-hmm. Let's say if we're going to 6.
Depending on whatever else is on the field too, you could make another like 3 treasures and hold up swap for like protection too.
Mm-hmm. So what are your thoughts on this 6?
Oh, that's
Huh?
amazing. You you have Mana Vault, which plays into Smothering Tithe and One Ring.
Mm-hmm.
You have the also have this hand every game I played. I don't think.
Yeah, I'd keep this all day long. It really depends on what you want to play, right? If you want to play the One Ring or if you want to play the Tithe. Uh, I've seen just a higher success rate of casting a turn 1 ring into like slowly just curving out, because this just fixes all your draws, gives you interaction, gives you mana and stuff. Um, Tithe is like
Yeah.
Tithe is good with card draw, not so much by itself. Obviously, we still have our commanders that draw cards, but it's not at a exceptional rate like the One Ring.
Okay.
Yeah, because like
So you value Ring Smothering Tithe in this deck.
so I value Smothering Tithe over One Ring at most points if you have a draw engine in play. So like, for example,
Okay.
like Mystic or Ristic plus Smothering Tithe is mana plus card draw. Um, if it's like One Ring plus Ristic Study, that's double draw, but you're not breaking parity on mana necessarily with that.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
So you just want to have like some
I,
sort of combination of mana and card draw in order to win the game.
okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I just haven't played One Ring Farm for a while,
Mm-hmm.
so like getting used, like evaluating that card in hands is something I gotta like
Sure, sure,
get
sure.
back into.
Because like I will frequently see people just bin a One Ring and cast a Timna, when in reality, like literally, these two cards just draw the same amount. Like when you cast them initially, right? Timna draws you one card on your next turn, and the One Ring draws you a card on this turn or whatever, right? That's still one card. Even if you have like Timna and Crom, right? That's 2 or 3 cards. With the ring, it just sits in play. It's a lot harder to remove than Timna and Crom. And you just draw one, you draw two, right? That's already 3 cards in 2 turn cycles, and that's most likely a better rate than Timna and Crom, and it's cheaper than Timna and Crom.
Right. Right. Yeah. Okay.
And if it's only single Timna, One Ring will just straight up outvalue Timna all day long, and it's way easier to cast the One Ring too. Like, for example, you see in this hand, right? You can literally land Mana Vault Petal into One Ring, and like that you can't cast Timna off of Mana Vault and Lotus Petal either. I think that's why One Ring is a little
Yeah.
underrated in Blue Farm, is because like people equate it to Timna, but I don't think that's a fair equivalent because it's just easier to cast sometimes, and it draws you more cards than Timna over time.
The other thing about that hand too is if you just one more land, your next play is land ritual tithe, which
Yeah,
is
yeah,
just
yeah. Oh
amazing
yeah,
too.
that's busted. That's busted.
Like better than like in in that situation. So
Mm-hmm.
okay, so I like the fact that this version of the deck almost doesn't care about fast commanders.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fast commanders come after the fast value engines,
For sure,
which
for
makes a lot
sure.
of sense, right?
Like you, like
So
I
have
would highly
the
rate. I would rate Esper, Mystic, and Ristic as higher tier engines than Crom and Timna just naturally. Um, but a combination of all of these will get you towards the end state that you want.
okay.
Yeah. So it's just about finding a way to like draw cards, make mana, and then eventually you just find all your stuff and win.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel like I have it down pretty well. It's just 10 plus cards in the deck
Mm-hmm.
that I asked because um, the last couple games prior to Monday when I played, I felt like I was mulliganing incorrectly. Like I was still following what I was doing more goal, but playing the faster cards, and I felt like some of my mulligan decisions weren't as best as they could be, and it
Mm-hmm.
was because I would frequently, oh, this is turn 2 Crom, like that's good.
Mm-hmm.
When I was grindy version, yeah, but if I'm playing the faster version, I do like the it's you're kind of like more mulliganing like you would with Wrong Side.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Less chaining a bunch of spells and trying to win turn 2, obviously, but like the very much like I'm going to keep a fast value engine and sit behind it for a couple turns
And then
and
see
win
what
that way.
happens from there.
Yeah, yeah.
Are you very experienced with Necro? Like, what's your Necropotence?
I know all the tricks with it, like how if you're silenced, you can respond to the Necro trigger after the silence effect goes away
Mm-hmm.
for the turn. I know that I have Necro out with a breach, and if you can born, you can respond to the Necro triggers when they hit your yard
Mm-hmm.
and kind of fuel breach that way. Um, the Usually when I play, if I can turn 1 or turn 2 it, I'll usually dump 10, 12, like depending on what my hands,
Mm-hmm.
and then following turn pay into everything 5 or 6 life, or depending on what's on the, like if I'm afraid someone's going to bowmaster me, then I'll be a little more conservative, or if I have like a mana confluence, city of brass, stuff like that, I'll take that into consideration. But
Mm-hmm.
usually I'll do that, and then most of the time, and then ends up paying off. It depends on like how much mana. I think Ganesh did the math on it, and it was like you have like a 40% chance of hitting Final Fortune or Born if you have like red blue mana up.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you hit a Simeon guy, that pays for Final Fortune and Born. If you hit any other thing like that, then it helps.
For sure.
So
And I think
odds are
something that does help with this deck is that you have snapback and offer. So at instant speed, you can cast a snapback on like a dork and then offer the snapback, so you make 2 mana. Um,
oh yeah, I've done that before. You just basically use offer as a ritual.
mm-hmm.
Um, but yes, I about Snapback because that used to be played and I haven't played it in forever, but I saw it on your list and I was like, oh, that's cool. And it actually came up in a game I played on Monday where um, somebody had the odd player had one of the pingers that they play, like whenever your opponent draws a card,
Oh,
it
okay.
deals one, and I was able to post Necro to get him to stop having ob triggers. So that was cool. Uh, I I forgot that you could also just snap back off of that. I'm used to doing it to like zero rocks, like a Mox Diamond or Mox Amber, stuff like that.
It's just something that comes up because sometimes you can't afford to like offer your Chromox. You just offer a different spell instead.
Right, and yeah, like if you don't have Born, right? Like if
Because like you can literally
you add on
from one
Necro.
mana snap back offer into Born, which is a uh crazy thing to do just from one mana.
Right, because prior to casting Born, you can't do that at rock, right? You can't go. I'm gonna cast this Mox Diamond, offer it, then cast Born. It's like you have to have Born
Yeah,
first, obviously. So having like that,
it does come up sometimes. So
but yeah, I typically look at it as like the other half of the ritual post Nas, post Necro.
have you you know how to like top deck tutor with Necro, right? Hello.
Um, yeah, I feel like I do. If you have Necro out, you top deck tutor. You can do so main phase, like your main phase, you can top deck tutor, pay your life, and then grab the card you tutored for at when you go to trigger Necro, right? Or are you talking about something different?
Okay, so it's very close to that, but
Okay.
this is extremely important. Uh, and I did do a coaching session on Monday about this too. Uh,
Okay.
but you can see my screen, right? I'm just gonna go grab a couple cards
Yeah.
that are like generic or whatever. Uh, let's say we have like a mystical tutor. We have like a command tower, right?
Yeah.
And then these are cards just wherever. I'll just put them back in my library. Let's say you mold to like 4, right? And you kept land, Dark Writ, Necro, land, and you draw like Mystical Tutor, right? So on turn 1, you'll land Dark Writ with the command tower. You'll pay like 7 or so life just to refill your hand, right? That's all normal. Uh,
Yeah.
so you paid 7 or so life. And then on your next turn, you untap. You'll play like another land, right? And this part is important. You can actually pay like 30 life right now, or like, let's say for example we paid 7 life last turn, right? So we're at 33.
Hmm.
Usually the life I go to is 4, just because that accounts for Vampiric Tutor and Force of Will.
Okay.
So I'll normally go to 4. Here, since I have a top deck tutor, I will go to 5, right? And then in doing so, you'll put X minus 1 amount of cards in exile, and then now you can cast the mystical tutor, and then you can reverse engineer whatever is in the exile pile, and then you can go grab either your flash enabler or another ritual or whatever you need
Uh,
that's missing from the pile, because you can
so you
reverse engineer it.
Okay, so you're doing this to save one card, right? Because if you necro and you hit something you want, it's the equivalent of of not getting an additional card because the mystical tutor in hand represents the card you want. So why get the card you want in the necro pile when you can get it using the mystical tutor and get the extra card?
Because if you like, sometimes you will just have it, right? Sometimes you will have uh you will have born in this pile and you will have like rituals, but you don't know that for certain. And sometimes you don't get lucky and you don't have rituals or you don't have born, and this just ensures that you have it in this pile. That's
Oh,
exiled.
wait, I think I'm misunderstanding what you're saying.
Sure.
You're saying put the activations of Necro on the stack before they get exiled. You mystical tutor, so your mystical tutor card is in your exile.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
So
Okay,
so
I thought you were saying that you put the triggers on the stack, you exile the cards, then you play the mystical tutor, and then what that represents is Born is in your exile. You play the Born, you draw a card, and that card you draw is the mystical tutor
oh no.
card. But
No, 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 no.
how?
This is a lot better. You'll put 25
Okay,
or so
yeah,
cards in here and like just on your main phase. And then
yeah.
before you move phases, you cast this mystical tutor and then you can determine everything that is in this pile. Fast mana, flash enablers. And if you have your flash enabler, you just go get another ritual. If you don't have born in this pile, you can go grab born and then just pay the extra life. That's why I was saying go down to 4 plus 1, because then you're at 5, right? You can,
Oh,
let's say we don't have the born in this pile or the valley flood collar, we can put it on top and then we can hit ourselves for 1, and then we move to end step with the born pile in our end step now.
yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. 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 I see that. Yeah. You go down to X life plus one, knowing that you're gonna minus one after the mystical tutor, and you're basically using it as
You're using it
like
as like a
a way to look at
Gitaxian
your library
probe.
to see what your
Yeah,
pile is. So look
you're using it as a Gitaxian
on your
probe on your Necro pile, basically.
Yeah, I like that. I don't think I've ever realized that interaction before.
But this is super important for like new people starting to play Necro, because I know some people are like stuck playing the like traditional blue farm no Necro all your value engines style. So when they do pick this deck up for the first time, this is one of the things they miss, is that they either don't play the Necro or they play the Necro incorrectly.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It's really good.
Do you have any questions for me today?
Um. You kind of hit everything. I like the idea of playing this kind of like how you said the Roxai um, influence. Um, I think that's going to change how I look at the deck, and I think it'll help overall. Um, I do have one question. One of the games that I played on Monday, there was a point of interaction, and this is the game I won with Necro that I told you about.
Mm-hmm.
It was turn one Timna, and then I had drawn Necro for turn two, so I played Necro turn two, paid I think 10 into it,
Mm-hmm.
sculpted, and won on turn three. But there was a point where on turn three, when I necroed, I had Mox Opal, Chrome Mox, two lands, and an LED.
Mm-hmm.
And the LED I had just played turn on. My opponent had he wanted to talk about it because we have a solar today, and we're
Sorry, I
teammates.
couldn't hear you.
And he was like,
Could you go back to when you said you drew the LED for turn, or you played the LED for turn?
"Oh, oh yeah, yeah. Sorry. I was saying that I played LED on turn one just to turn the opal on,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it was my third artifact.
Sure.
And there was a point in turn three where I had a Timna that could attack. I had Necro out, and I go to combat. And my friend playing Obnix, he had an Abrade, and we kind of paused the game because we're teammates, and he had a question because he knows he's going to play a bunch of blue farms, so he wanted to know at what point do I interact here and what do I hit. And we had a discussion about Abrade killing the Timna What that does is it makes me not gain 2 life, which gets paid into Necro. I also don't draw a card off the attack, and then it cuts me off of any like free interaction that the Necro pile gets me because it was the
Mm-hmm.
only commander I had. Versus the LED. If I hit Breachborn, having the LED in my graveyard means that I have more resources I have to use to, bring that back with
Mm-hmm.
escape. It also takes me off of the opal mana, right? Like post Necro, I need all the mana I can get.
Mm-hmm.
We talked it all out, and like no matter which one that he ends up hitting, I still got there. And it wasn't close. It was like I was up like 2 mana versus 3 mana, so it was totally fine either way. He didn't. He was like, okay, so like it's good to know neither one of those would have stopped you. But he ended up killing the Timna, and I don't know. We don't know which one is the correct move. Like what's in that situation? What do I play around? Like what's worse for me happening?
So what's actually worse for you happening here is having your. I actually do think the LED being destroyed is the bigger thing because you have already resolved a Necro. There's no like, oh, we're going to fight over Necro with like a Fierce Guardianship or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
because LED, another thing you can do is literally with the Necro triggers on the stack, you crack it for mana, which is what I
Right.
usually do. Is like
Onto
you'll
the
you'll tap like your opal and then crack your LED. You'll discard whatever like random stuff that's in your hand, and then you'll float like for example a blue with your opal and then 3 black. Because most of your instant speed rituals are also just black too, so it's
right.
I think that's a little harder on you trying to convert because once you have a necro in play, your only like choke point is mana.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and I had at that time I had 5 mana, 3 lands, a chrome, and an opal. So
Mm-hmm.
that's enough to pick up my necropile, cast Born, cast Breach, and then at that point I can just replay LED, which is nice. He thought that the hitting the LED, or no, I'm sorry, he thought that hitting Timna would be worse for me, and then we kind of talked about it, and we both agreed that the LED was worse for me.
Mm-hmm.
So good to know that our thought process was in sync with.
The other thing is that having Timna in play only enables culling the weak in your necro pile. Um, like everything else is like
Right.
everything else is still like enabled and active. So I think missing out on Timna is less of a problem than missing out on the LED.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, and his argument was if I hit the LED now, I forced you to make the decision: do I crack it and have everything go to exile, or do you just lose the 3 mana? And I was telling him, I don't think I care about the 3 mana right here. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, it was one of those things where I didn't know which one was correct and which I need to play around. So,
Gotcha. No worries. Do you have any other questions before we sign off today?
no, that's all. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I like the insight on all of this, and I'll let you know over the next couple weeks if I notice any changes, and then I'll keep a little record of different mulligans that I find. If I find anything that's kind of interesting, I'll let you know and pick your brain about it then if needed.
Sounds good. We'll figure things out.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course. Have a wonderful night.
All right, take it easy, you too.
Thanks.